wearing a bright yellow Pikachu onesie, sitting in the back of a police car, and still posting on Instagram like it was just another day. That's how this whole situation started. But what nobody expected was how fast it would spiral out of control. Because what looked like a weird, almost funny moment involving King Harris quickly turned into something way bigger, way more embarrassing, and way more personal. And the worst part? It didn't stay on the streets. It didn't stay in the police report. It didn't even stay on social media. It ended up on a podcast. Yeah, that's where everything went left. Because the moment that clip hit, hosts laughing, replaying the mugshot, zooming in on the onesie, turning the entire situation into a joke, King didn't laugh. Not even a little. He snapped. Right there. On camera. And just like that, what started as trolling turned into confrontation. What started as a joke turned into humiliation. And the internet? Oh, they didn't hold back. Because within minutes, clips of that moment were everywhere. People weren't just watching, they were choosing sides. Some said he was standing on business. Others said he just embarrassed himself again. But here's where things take a serious turn. Because while all of this was happening, while the internet was laughing, while the podcast was going viral, there was one person watching all of it unfold in real time. Eineen. And according to insiders, he didn't take it lightly. Not at all. Because this wasn't just about a meme. This wasn't just about a viral moment. This was about his son being turned into entertainment for millions of people. After everything that already happened. The arrest, the charges, the body cam footage, the public embarrassment. And now this? A podcast turning it into a joke? Yeah, that was the breaking point. Because sources are now saying T.I. didn't just react, he lost it. And what he's allegedly doing behind the scenes right now has people wondering if this situation is about to get even more serious. Because this isn't just a father watching from the sidelines anymore. This is a father stepping in. And trust me, once that happens, things don't stay funny for long. To really understand why this situation hit the level it just did, you have to go way deeper than a viral clip or a podcast moment. Because what's happening right now between T.I. and King Harris didn't just start with a Pikachu onesie, and it definitely didn't start on that podcast. This has been building for years. And if you've been paying attention, the signs were always there. Because King Harris didn't grow up like most people. He wasn't just another kid trying to figure life out quietly. He grew up in the spotlight, cameras, reality TV, fame from day one. Being the son of one of Atlanta's biggest rap icons automatically put expectations on him before he even had the chance to define himself. And that pressure? It doesn't just disappear. It turns into something else. Because on one side, you have T.I., a man who built his name from the ground up. Struggle, hustle, real consequences, real lessons. He didn't just become successful, he survived his way into it. So when he looks at his son, he doesn't just see potential, he sees responsibility, legacy, a name that has to be protected. But on the other side, you have King, young, confident, and very aware of the fact that people don't see him as self-made. They see him as privileged, as someone who had everything handed to him. And that's something he's been fighting against for a long time. Because if there's one thing King has made clear over the years, it's that he does not want to be seen as the rich kid who had it easy. He wants to prove himself on his own terms, even if those terms look reckless to everyone else. And that's where the tension starts. Because proving yourself doesn't always mean making smart decisions. Sometimes it means doing the exact opposite. And that pattern has been showing up again and again. It wasn't just this recent arrest. There were moments before this. Run-ins with law enforcement. Situations that could have been avoided, but weren't. And every single time, it played out publicly. Because unlike most people who try to hide their mistakes, King, he puts them online. He turns them into content. That's what makes this situation so different. Because this isn't just someone making bad decisions. This is someone documenting those decisions in real time. And the Pikachu onesie arrest? That was the moment everything crossed a new line. Because it wasn't just serious. It was absurd. A high-speed traffic stop, a visible firearm, refusing to exit the vehicle, charges stacking up. And through all of that, He's sitting there, dressed like a cartoon character, posting on Instagram like it's a joke. Now think about how that looks to the public. Think about how that looks to his father. Because to some people, it was funny. A meme. Something to laugh at. But to others, it was embarrassing. A sign that things were getting out of control. And for T.I., it was something much deeper than that. Because he wasn't just watching a viral moment. He was watching his son turn a serious situation into entertainment. And that's not something you can ignore. But here's where things get even more complicated. Because despite all of this tension, their relationship isn't simple. It's not just strict father versus rebellious son. It's layered. There have been moments where they clash publicly. Arguments. Disagreements about upbringing. About what kind of life King actually had. And those moments, they didn't stay private. They went viral. People picked sides. Some defended King, saying he deserves space to grow. Others backed T.I., saying he's trying to guide him before it's too late. And for a while, it looked like things were getting better. They started understanding each other more. T.I. even spoke publicly about letting his son grow at his own pace. Not forcing him. Not controlling him. Just guiding him. But here's the problem. Growth takes time. And mistakes? They don't wait. Because just when it seemed like things were stabilizing, and everything started escalating again. First, the arrest. Then the footage. Then the posts. Then the memes. And now, the podcast, Humiliation. And this is where everything changes. Because getting arrested, that's one thing. People can move past that. But getting laughed at, publicly, repeatedly, and then reacting emotionally on camera, that hits different. Because now, it's not just about what happened. It's about how you handled it. And that's exactly what people are judging. That's exactly what the internet is replaying over and over again. And that's exactly what T.I. is seeing too. Not just the arrest, not just the charges, but the reaction. The way his son responded when he was put on the spot. And based on what insiders are hinting at right now, that reaction might be what pushed things over the edge. Because at some point, it stops being about he's young. It stops being about he's learning. And it starts becoming something else entirely. A pattern. And patterns are harder to ignore. Because when the same type of situation keeps happening over and over again, at some point, something has to change. And the question now is, what happens when that change doesn't come from the son, but from the father? Because if T.I. really is reaching his limit, if this really was the moment that made him step in differently, then what happens next? Might not look like anything we've seen before, because this isn't just about guiding anymore. This might be about control. And once a situation reaches that level, it doesn't stay quiet for long. And this is where everything finally explodes, because the moment that podcast clip started going viral, that's when the situation stopped being just another embarrassing moment for King Harris and turned into a full-blown confrontation. Because let's break down what really happened in that room. This wasn't just a casual interview. This wasn't friendly conversation. This was pressure. The hosts weren't easing into anything. They went straight for it. The mugshot, the onesie, the arrest, everything. They pulled it up, replayed it, laughed, zoomed in, and made it clear this wasn't going to be brushed over. Now imagine being in that position. Millions of people have already seen that moment. You've already been turned into a meme. And now, you're sitting there, being forced to relive it, on camera. That alone is enough to make anyone uncomfortable. But King, he didn't get uncomfortable. He got defensive. And that's where everything starts to spiral. Because instead of laughing it off, instead of controlling the moment, he pushed back. Hard. His tone changed. His body language shifted. And suddenly, you could feel the tension. Because what the host thought was going to be funny turned into something awkward real fast. One moment, they're joking. The next moment, they're realizing this isn't landing the way they expected. But it was already too late. Because King didn't just respond, he snapped. Right there, on camera, and that's the moment the internet grabbed and ran with. Clips cut, posted, reposted, zoomed in, analyzed, and within hours, that single moment turned into a viral explosion. Now here's where the conflict gets deeper, because the internet didn't just watch, they judged. Some people said he was standing on business, that he wasn't going to let anyone clown him to his face, that he showed real energy. But the other side, they saw something completely different. They said he proved exactly what the jokes were about. That instead of controlling the narrative, he became part of it. That instead of shutting it down, he made it worse. And that's where the humiliation hits its peak. Because once the internet decides something is funny, it doesn't stop. Memes started flooding timelines. The Pikachu onesie got edited into everything. The arrest turned into jokes. The podcast moment turned into reaction videos. And suddenly, King wasn't just trending, he was being laughed at. And this is where the situation reaches the breaking point for T.I. Because while everyone else saw entertainment, he saw something else entirely: disrespect. Not just toward his son, but toward his name, his legacy. Because let's be real, when King goes viral like that, people don't just see him, they see T.I.'s son. And that connection makes everything heavier. Because now it's not just King being embarrassed, it's the family name being dragged into it. And insiders are now saying that's exactly what set T.I. off. Because according to people close to the situation, he didn't just watch that clip and move on. He replayed it, analyzed it, and what bothered him the most wasn't even the jokes. It was how King handled it. Because from T.I.'s perspective, that moment was an opportunity to show growth, to show control, to prove the critics wrong. And instead, it turned into the exact opposite. And that is where the frustration kicks in. Because this wasn't the first time. This wasn't even the second time. This was a pattern. And patterns, they don't just fix themselves. But wait. Because this is where the first twist changes everything. Because just when people thought this was only about the podcast moment, something else started surfacing. Something that made the entire situation even more serious. Because insiders began pointing out that the podcast's humiliation was just the result, not the cause. The real issue started way earlier, with the arrest itself. Because let's go back to that moment. High speed, firearm visible, refusing to exit the vehicle, multiple charges, and then posting on Instagram during the situation. Now that's not just reckless, that's calculated chaos. And when you combine that with the podcast meltdown, it creates a narrative that's hard to ignore. That this isn't just a young guy making mistakes. This is someone who's leaning into the chaos. And that's the twist nobody wanted to admit. Because it changes how everything looks. It's no longer about one bad moment. It's about a mindset. And if that mindset doesn't change, then this situation doesn't get better. It gets worse. And here's where things take another turn. Because while all of this is happening publicly, behind the scenes, T.I. is reportedly making moves. Not loud moves, not public statements, but internal decisions. Because sources are now hinting that this moment, the podcast clip, the viral humiliation, might be the point where he decides to step in differently, not just as a father trying to guide, but as someone who realizes guidance isn't working anymore. And that is where things get serious. Because once guidance turns into control, everything changes. Relationships shift, boundaries get tested, and conflict becomes inevitable. Because now we're not just looking at a father trying to help his son. We're looking at a father who might be preparing to take control of the situation before it gets completely out of hand. And if that's true, then what happens next isn't going to stay private. Because situations like this, they always spill out, especially when emotions are high, and the spotlight is already there. So now the real question is, what happens when T.I. decides enough is enough? Does King push back? Does the tension explode publicly? Or does this turn into something even bigger than what we've already seen? Because if this really is the turning point insiders are hinting at, then trust me, the next move is going to change everything. And just when it looked like the situation had already gone as far as it could, it didn't slow down. It got worse. Because after that podcast clip of King Harris snapping started going viral, something shifted. Not just online, but behind the scenes. And this is where everything takes a much darker turn. Because according to multiple insider whispers, I didn't just see the clip, he saw everything. The memes,